Take a moment and ask yourself this one question. What would happen if the sensitivity you once saw as a burden was not a weakness at all, but raw material for an extraordinary strength you have never fully discovered? What would happen if the years of silent suffering, the times you felt everything too deeply, the moments you carried the invisible wounds of others, were not signs of fragility, but a sacred beginning of an inner rebirth? Try to imagine this. Your sensitivity is like a precious musical instrument, but one that has never been tuned. It has the capacity to resonate with the most subtle melodies of the universe. Yet when it is uncalibrated, that instrument absorbs everything indiscriminately, like an ear that never stops listening to every sound, every echo in the space around it. The anxiety of a coworker, the unspoken grief of someone you love, the simmering anger of an entire crowd, it all rushes in. But it is not music. It becomes a chaotic symphony of inner noise, a constant state of overwhelm caused by emotions that were never truly your own. If you are listening to these words, you are likely already familiar with this reality. You are the one who heals others while carrying invisible wounds that no one sees. You absorb the pain of the world around you. You keep the peace in storm-filled places, while you yourself become the land no one ever stops to notice. You have spent your entire life trying to be kind, gentle, pure in your love, hoping that one day no one would be able to hurt you anymore. And then comes the painful realization that the very openness you believed would protect you has quietly become the invisible cage holding you in place. The video you are watching now is not a list of quick solutions. It is not a set of shallow affirmations you scroll past and forget. This is a map, one that leads you deep into the inner world, into the most hidden chambers of the empathic soul. This is an initiation, not through blinding light, but through the willingness to walk through darkness. The foundation of this journey is the psychology of Carl Jung, a man who devoted his life to mapping the unconscious, to confronting the shadow, and to revealing the path toward wholeness in a process he called individuation. Jung helps us understand that the very parts we reject, the parts we fear, are the missing pieces that lead us to true inner wholeness. The journey we are about to begins right here, with an honest look at the nature of this gift in its most raw and overwhelming form, the state in which it was experienced as a burden. Because only when you understand why your sensitivity once felt like a curse can you begin the inner alchemy that transforms it into your greatest strength. And if you are ready to step beyond your old limits, to turn the curse into a gift, then right now, in this moment, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, not to add another number, but to make a commitment to your own soul that from today forward, you will no longer walk this journey alone. At the initial stage of this journey, the empathic gift you carry exists in a state that depth psychology calls unconscious participation. This means you are not standing outside, observing. You are merged into everything, but in a passive way. In those early days, you are not the witness. You are immersed in the experiences of others. You become an emotional shock absorber, a sponge for the social systems you belong to, for the hearts around you that you never consciously chose. And if you have ever wondered why you react so intensely to emotions that do not seem to be yours, this is where it begins. Not because you are weak, but because you have not yet developed a mechanism to distinguish between your emotions and those of others. Modern psychology describes this as a form of unconscious emotional absorption, a state in which the empath does not merely listen, but takes in, contains, and holds, like an invisible vessel for fears, grief, and tension that others cannot or dare not process. Look back at your own experience before healing began. You did not simply participate in other people's emotions. You dissolved yourself into them. The unspoken anger of a father during an unresolved argument could become a lingering anxiety in your chest. The wound of betrayal in a relationship could turn into self-doubt and suspicion seeping into your thoughts. You were no longer just listening to pain. You became the pain itself. And when you remain submerged like that for long enough, you begin to lose your sense of who you are. These patterns often begin in early life, when you were praised for being considerate, rewarded for keeping the peace, seen as the understanding one in your family, at school, in your community. Each time you suppressed your own needs to calm someone else's anger, each time you placed another person's peace above your own sense of safety, you received approval. At first, that reinforcement seemed gentle, but over time, it became a dangerous pattern, because you learned that your value did not come from who you are, but from how well you could serve others. And slowly, you forgot how to listen to your own inner voice. Carl Jung, who devoted his life to exploring the deepest layers of the human psyche, once issued a profound warning. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. How many times have you asked yourself, why do I react so strongly? Why can't I detach when everyone else seems calm? But if those reactions are arising from unconscious parts of you that you have never seen, then instead of asking why they happen, you need to ask a different question. Have I ever truly understood where they come from? And the price an empath pays for never stopping to ask that question is extremely high. When you continuously absorb toxic emotions, fail to set boundaries, and neglect to protect yourself, your body and mind eventually rebel in ways you cannot ignore. Psychologists call this state compassion fatigue, a form of emotional and physical exhaustion that does not merely affect mood, but overwhelms the entire nervous system. Pause for a moment and listen to your body. Do you feel depleted no matter how much you sleep or rest? Disconnected, skeptical, cut off from the world, detached from your own emotions, locked in a constant state of hypervigilance, like a wild animal being hunted, easily irritated, easily overstimulated, as if the smallest sound could throw you off balance. Sometimes it feels like a fog has settled over your mind, making it hard to focus, hard to think clearly. And your body seems to scream through chronic pain in the neck, shoulders, or jaw. Your immune system weakens, and life itself feels like an invisible gravity pulling you downward. These symptoms are not meaningless. They are real responses from a human being pushed beyond their limits. But here's what few people say out loud. This state of exhaustion is not the end. It is not a sign of failure or inadequacy. It is an inevitable breaking point, a necessary collapse, a dismantling of the psychological structures you once relied on to survive, because it is from the ashes of this depletion that you receive a sacred invitation. Not an invitation bright like daylight, but subtle, like an echo in the dark, an invitation to turn inward, to face the deepest parts of your soul. The cost of not seeing this, of never pausing, never breathing within your own unconscious, is a life lived in quiet emptiness, exhausted without knowing why, lost without knowing where to go. But when you choose to stop, to recognize what is happening, and to go inward, the collapse is no longer destruction. It becomes the beginning of a spiritual transformation greater than anything you ever expected. What you are experiencing at this breaking point is not merely a psychological collapse. No, it goes far deeper than that. It is a profound spiritual event, a sacred trial, one that your soul no longer has the option to avoid, but must face. In the fields of spiritual research and depth psychology, states like this are known as a spiritual emergency, a term used to describe moments when spiritual awakening unfolds with such intensity, such force, that the old foundations within you begin to shake at their very roots. In depth psychology, this process is described by the term metanoia, a fundamental transformation of the personality. A moment in which the old identity must completely dissolve so that a new, more whole version of you can emerge. Metanoia is not an illness. It is the soul's spontaneous effort to heal itself, to dismantle old inner structures and open a new path forward. In ancient spiritual traditions, this period of suffering has long been known by a haunting name, the dark night of the soul, a stage in which the soul feels lost, the connection to the divine seems to disappear, and everything that once carried meaning appears to fall away. But this is crucial to remember. This is not a psychological disorder like ordinary depression. Even though the symptoms may look similar, disorientation, emptiness, confusion. The dark night of the soul is a necessary process of purification. A pain with evolutionary meaning rather than a meaningless collapse. So what pushed you into this darkness? In many cases, it is the experience of a deep betrayal, a moment that shatters every illusion you held about the world and about yourself. But if you slow down and listen carefully, you will see that the deepest pain does not come from someone else betraying you. It comes from your own self-betrayal. Self-betrayal is the moment you realize with unbearable clarity that you saw the warning signs long ago and chose to ignore them. Your intuition was screaming the truth, and you silenced it. To keep the peace, to preserve a relationship, to believe in the goodness of someone who did not deserve that faith. And when you look back, you are forced to face a raw truth that you yourself participated in your own self-destruction. The soul's first response to this realization is often fracture and numbness. After years of feeling too much, your nervous system partially shuts down, a survival mechanism meant to prevent total collapse. Your capacity to feel the subtle vibrations around you suddenly dries up, as if an inner door quietly closes. For someone whose entire life has been defined by emotional intensity, this emptiness is a wordless terror. And yet, this numbness is not annihilation. It is a necessary separation, part of a deeper purification process. It creates a new distance, a distance between the self and the external world, one you have never known before. It breaks the unconscious fusion that contributed to the exhaustion that brought you here. And it is difficult to put into words what unfolds during this chapter of your life. But as Carl Gustav Jung said with piercing simplicity, there is no awakening without pain. This night, no matter how painful, is not a punishment. It is a sacred invitation, a crucifixion of the old ego to clear the path for the new one. A reminder that the most important journey is not the one that takes you around the world, but the one that takes you down into the deepest layers of yourself to confront the shadow, the rejected inner parts you have been avoiding for so long. When the outer social mask you have worn begins to dissolve, when you can no longer hide behind the roles of being nice, pleasant, or agreeable, an encounter arises that is both profound and unavoidable. A confrontation with the rejected part of yourself, Carl Gustav Jung called this part the shadow, an aspect of the unconscious that most of us spend our entire lives avoiding. In Jung's psychology, the shadow's not merely a vague darkness. It is everything you have refused to acknowledge within yourself, your impulses, your forbidden desires, the weaknesses you were taught to suppress, and even the unrealized potentials that you hastily labeled as bad or unacceptable. But for an empath, the shadow has a particularly distinct structure. Ironically, the very capacities you fear the most are the ones you have buried deepest in the dark, the very capacities that were meant to protect you. Righteous anger, the ability to say no with clarity, the instinct for self-protection, even a form of selfishness that is, in truth, healthy. All of these were pushed into the shadow because you built your entire identity around being a good person. You feared that if you allowed yourself to feel anger, you would become aggressive. You feared that if you set boundaries, you would become cruel. And so you exiled these vital life energies into the unconscious, where they went unseen, unheard, and slowly condensed into a growing inner darkness. This descent into the shadow also exposes the hidden motivations behind your compassion. This is where you must confront what Jung and other depth psychologists call the martyr complex, a state in which you help others not only to support them, but to avoid facing your own pain. Is that why you are always there for others? Or is it a subtle way to avoid encountering the deepest wounds of your own soul? Ask yourself a question that is harsh, but necessary. Do you help others because you truly want to help them, or because it keeps you from having to face the loneliness within you? And deep inside, is there, or is there not, a quiet fire of resentment burning each time your sacrifices go unrecognized? Facing these questions is painful, because they shatter the carefully constructed self-image you have protected for so long. The image of someone who is always kind, always patient, always loving. But Jung issued a profound warning. One who is possessed by the shadow is always standing in his own light and falling into his own traps. What Jung meant is simple, yet powerful. If you do not see your own darkness, it will govern your behavior unconsciously. You will continue repeating old patterns, reacting through mechanisms you do not understand, and falling into the very traps you believed you had already escaped. So the goal here is not to let the shadow consume you. The goal is integration. Integration does not mean acting out every impulse of anger. It means acknowledging its existence, observing it without judgment, and then channeling that powerful energy into the service of a wider, more conscious awareness. When you dare to admit that you, too, carry parts you once labeled as bad or forbidden, you do not become worse. On the contrary, you begin to build a new inner spine, a character that is solid, resilient, and real. As Jung famously said, "No tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." It is this painful work of facing the shadow, of looking directly at the parts you once hid, judged, or rejected, that provides the raw material for the next great psychological alchemy. And when the darkness is acknowledged, only then can the light of a whole, integrated self begin to take shape. When you have passed through the stage known as the dark night of the soul, when you have faced each of the rejected parts within your inner world, a deeper transformation begins to unfold. This is the moment when you no longer merely react to what happens to you. You begin to transform yourself from the inside out. The ancients called this inner alchemy, a process the alchemists named conjunctio, the sacred marriage of opposing forces within the soul. In this ancient metaphor, elements that once seemed opposed, such as sensitivity and strength or compassion and clarity, are no longer separate. They meet, they merge, and from that union, something new is born, a psychological structure that is stronger, more integrated, and more whole. This process does not happen loudly. It unfolds in quiet moments. When you begin to see clearly that your ability to feel deeply does not require the sacrifice of yourself in order to survive, it can be anchored by a grounded strength and a clear inner direction. Carl Jung once said something that generations of inner explorers have carried with them. Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integrating the opposites. And the most fundamental shift in this phase is the transition from empathy to compassion. We often use these two words as if they mean the same thing, but psychologically, they belong to two entirely different worlds. Empathy is feeling with another person. You share their pain, you absorb it, you have no boundaries, you react automatically, and in the end, that pain exhausts you, causing you to burn out on suffering that was never yours to carry. Compassion, by contrast, is feeling for another person. It does not mean drowning in their pain. It means holding a safe inner space for it. You feel. You understand, but you are not swept away. In this state, your nervous system remains calm and clear. You help without allowing another person's pain to become your own. This is a true shift in consciousness, from emotional absorption to grounded understanding and spiritual boundaries. If you listen closely to your inner world, you will begin to hear the difference between two voices. The voice of the victim whispers, "I feel your pain, therefore it must be mine." But the voice of the observer says, "I feel your pain, I recognize your humanity, but I remain myself." The moment you step back to witness a wound instead of becoming it, that is the moment healing begins. This is the essence of individuation for an empath, learning to feel deeply without losing yourself. If you sense a subtle but profound shift within you, even the smallest light of that inner separation, take a moment and write in the comments, "I observe pain, but I am not pain." Write it to affirm to your own soul that you are ready to enter a new phase of yourself. And as this transformation takes hold, the way you see the world begins to change. Events that once felt like personal attacks no longer terrify you. They become messages from the unconscious, guiding you deeper into your own being. The narcissist is no longer your enemy. They become a call from your unintegrated shadow, reminding you to establish boundaries. The manipulator is no longer a betrayer. They are a mirror reflecting parts of yourself you once denied. Betrayal becomes an initiation. Abandonment becomes a revelation. And this new, integrated self is not fragile. It becomes the foundation of an entirely new kind of power. Not the power to control others, but the power of self-sovereignty, absolute authority over your own inner world. When the process of integration is truly complete, something within you begins to change very clearly. It is not loud, it is not intense like before, but you begin to radiate a new state of being, a kind of light that some people describe as a rare spiritual aura. But listen to me very carefully. This aura is not a sign of weakness or naivete. It is not a display of surface-level beauty, and it is not kindness packaged for others to admire. This is the radiance of a soul that has been deeply wounded, completely broken, and then reforged in the hidden crucible of pain. It is your willingness to meet your own darkness rather than run from it that creates this light. This aura does not come from never being hurt. It comes from facing your wounds and refusing to let them fragment you. This is not the performance of easy goodness. It is the quiet presence of a soul that has entered its own darkness and returned, stronger, more whole. Such a person becomes the living embodiment of the Jungian archetype, the wounded healer. When this happens, your function in the world changes at a fundamental level. You are no longer a sponge absorbing the emotions of others, not because you have become numb, but because you now know with clarity what belongs to you and what does not. You become a mirror. Your presence no longer absorbs emotion. It reflects truth. When someone living in illusion, self-deception, or denial stands before this mirror, they feel unsettled, sometimes even afraid. Not because you attack them, but because they are forced to see the parts of themselves they have long rejected. This is deeply threatening to those who depend on a lack of clarity to survive. And as a result, the integrated empath is often cast into the role of the villain. Those who once loved your compliance now resent the boundaries you set. This transformation reveals a profound distinction between being nice and being truly kind. Our culture often confuses the two, but they are opposites. The nice person avoids conflict at all costs. They enable dysfunction to preserve false harmony. They sacrifice truth so that everyone can remain comfortable. But the kind person is different. They are willing to enter necessary conflict to protect integrity. They refuse to tolerate disorder. They speak the truth, even when it disrupts surface-level harmony, because they understand this. Truth is the highest form of love. Through this painful process of integration, you develop new inner capacities, sharp, intentional. The first is selective empathy. You are no longer an open door. You become a fortress with a conscious gatekeeper. You choose who is worthy of access to your energy and depth. Empathy is no longer an automatic reflex. It becomes a deliberate, strategic investment. The second is strategic insight, not magic, but a refined system of pattern recognition, something close to psychological X-ray vision. After years of unconsciously collecting data, from micro-expressions, subtle shifts in tone, to repeating behavioral cycles, your brain now processes this information almost instantly. You sense intention. You anticipate behavior with astonishing accuracy. All of this forms a new identity, one that can only be described by a single image: a controlled monster. A being capable of psychological destruction who consciously chooses restraint and chooses mercy. It is this union of latent power and deliberate self-control that makes you untouchable. Not because you can no longer be hurt, but because you can no longer be manipulated. Living as an integrated empath is not a static state of permanent peace. Do not confuse awakening with everything becoming easy. The clarity you have discovered is a new foundation, but to sustain it, you need conscious practice and constant awareness. The journey does not end with awakening. It continues with a heavier responsibility to live an awakened life. And on this path, there are two quiet but dangerous risks you will face, two subtle traps of the ego. The first trap is spiritual grandiosity. It is the fleeting moment when you begin to feel different, special, chosen, or quietly superior because of your deeper awareness. The moment you believe that seeing more deeply places you above humanity, you have stepped into the illusion of spiritual arrogance, a distortion that true wisdom never seeks. Ironically, deeper perception can feed fantasies of power if humility is not actively cultivated. True vision never elevates you above others. It binds you more intimately to their suffering. Because at the deepest level of the soul, you recognize that you and they are both human beings struggling to live more fully. The second trap is isolation. Expanded awareness can draw you into a profound existential loneliness. When you begin to see hidden motives, unconscious patterns shaping the people around you, when you become sensitive to subtle energies most people ignore, you may feel like the only one awake in a room full of sleepwalkers. But the goal of this journey is not to escape the world and retreat into a spiritual tower. The goal is to participate in the world consciously, while maintaining integrity and refusing to dissolve back into the unconscious patterns you worked so hard to free yourself from. And to live in this state of sovereignty, you cannot rely on improvisation or emotional reactions. You need a set of living principles, not rigid rules, but ways of tending the sacred inner garden now growing within you. 1. Trust your intuition immediately. When something feels off, act. Do not second-guess yourself. Do not apologize for protecting yourself. Your intuition is a data system refined through pain, failure, and lived experience. It is one of the most reliable tools you possess. 2. Enforce boundaries without guilt. Remember this: no is a complete sentence. You do not owe anyone an explanation for protecting your inner energy. Withdrawing attention from those who disrespect you is not punishment. It is self-preservation. A spiritual warrior understands that any resource exploited without limits will eventually collapse. 3. Invest your energy strategically. You are not required to heal every broken person you encounter. Empathy is a precious resource, not an infinite one. Offer it only where there is reciprocity, respect, and genuine connection. 4. Release the need to be understood. This is the most powerful step of all. Stop trying to correct how others perceive you. If someone is committed to misunderstanding you, that is their limitation, not your responsibility. The story they tell about you is baggage they must carry, not something you are meant to manage. 5. Allow others to experience the consequences of their own choices. Stop rescuing people from lessons they are meant to learn themselves. Allowing natural consequences to unfold, even when it is painful to witness, is the only way real growth occurs. And that is the deepest form of kindness. These practices are not about building walls to separate you from the world. They are about cultivating a sacred inner garden, a sovereign inner space from which you can engage with life, not through reflex or reaction, but through authenticity, strength, and wholeness, a state Carl Jung called individuation, the harmony between consciousness and the unconscious, allowing you to be awake and still fully human among other humans. The journey of the empath, just as Carl Jung described in the process of individuation, is a great alchemical adventure of the soul. That path begins with a primordial gift that you once experienced as a burden. It leads you through the darkest turns, through collapse, through the inner night, where the old ego disintegrates and you are forced to face the deepest layers of your unconscious. You plunge into that darkness not because you are brave, but because you no longer have any choice except to look directly at the parts of yourself that were rejected. And then, after everything, you rise into a sacred union of the inner opposites, a new human being, more whole. Not because you were never wounded, but because you brought those wounds into the center of your awareness instead of hiding from them or turning away. This journey was never about escaping sensitivity. It was always about revealing its true purpose, transforming those deep, sometimes chaotic vibrations into a compass for your soul. Because sensitivity is no longer formless noise. It becomes spiritual orientation, a guide that consistently points toward truth, not illusion. When the empath has learned how to heal inwardly, they become living alchemy. They are living proof that the soul can transform suffering into light more convincingly than any magic or affirmation ever could. They are no longer passive participants in the dreams of others. They become conscious co-creators. Their power no longer lies in being swept away by the emotions of others, but in the mastery of understanding and reflecting like a mirror of the soul, reflecting not only darkness, but also the hidden light searching for its way back home. In Jung's understanding, what we call a whole ego is not flawless perfection, but the union of inner opposites, shadow and light, emotion and reason, suffering and joy. The empath reborn through darkness is no longer merely an observer of dreams, but the dream becoming conscious of itself, a profound awareness of self and world. And if you have seen yourself in this waking dream, I want to offer you a sincere invitation. First, share this video, because somewhere out there, another empath may still be lying in the dark, believing they are lost. Send this as a light to remind them they are not alone on their journey. Second, leave a mark of rebirth in the comments below. Whatever your intuition guides you to write, or simply, "I am the dream that is awakened," write it to affirm to the universe that you are ready to step into a new chapter of yourself. And finally, to continue nurturing this clarity so it does not fade as just a beautiful moment, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, not to end the journey, but to open new doors together, the next chapters in the exploration of the deep psyche. Thank you for having the courage to enter the darkness and for walking with me to the other side of awakening.